Hey guys, my name is Emma and today I have a book haul for you. So these are all the books that I bought in January and February, I think. There may be a few that I've missed on my shelves, but for the most part these are the ones that I bought in the first few months of the year. There are 17 physical books here, and then I will talk about a few audiobooks and ebooks that I picked up at the very end. But we all know that we like pretty covers, so physical books will be the ones that we focus on. I have actually read some of these before, either that I've read them since buying them, or they were books that I've bought because I've read them already. So where that is the case, I will flag them. I'm going to break it into like classic fiction and non-fiction because I think that's a better breakdown rather than just chronological. So let's go for fiction first. A book that I picked up quite recently. Mum and I went out shopping fairly recently. I've not read this yet. It is Everfair by Nisi Shawl. This is a speculative fiction retelling the invasion of the Congo by Belgium, but this time looking at it as if what would happen if Congo had access to basically steampunk technology. It sounds really cool, really exciting, and is a lovely fusion of historical fiction and sci-fi and kind of smashing the two together. I love things like this. I think it's going to be really interesting, and it fits brilliantly with my book Wilde tour because it is indeed set in the Congo. A fiction book that I have read already is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silver. I originally listened to this on audiobook back in April last year. It's a wonderful YA about a world where you find out the day that you're going to die at midnight that day, so you get a phone call saying that you have less than 24 hours to live. You don't know exactly when you're going to die in that time period, but you do know that that's when you're going to die. And it's about a relationship between two boys who meet because they both get a phone call on the same day. It's really lovely and wonderful, but I did want a physical copy because I only have an audiobook at the moment, and this one's got like a shiny cover and really pretty. Then we have Marie Brennan's The Tropic of Serpents. This is book 2 in her Lady Trent memoir series. It is a combination of Victorian history, dragons, and a lady dragonologist. It's amazing. I really enjoyed book 1, so I'm keen to get around to this fairly soon. Another one that I'm super excited to read, cannot wait to get to, is The Winter of the Witch by Katherine Arden. This is the final book in her Winter Night trilogy where we're going to get everything rounded off for Vassia, and I cannot wait. Book 1 and book 2 were some of my all-time favourite books from last year, 5 stars all the way around, and I just know Catherine's going to pull it off at the end and make this an absolute cracker of a book. And I think that's it for fiction for physical books. I haven't really bought that much like what I consider standard fiction. Everything else is either non-fiction or classics. So let's jump in with my classics, shall we? I read A Room of One's Own at the beginning of the year. I read it from my mum's copy, but I enjoyed it so much that I decided to grab my own copy. So I have this one here. It is A Room of One's Own by Virginia Woolf. This has another one of her stories in it. Yes, the sequel, which is 3 Guineas. So it's not a story actually, this is non-fiction. Oops. I guess we're doing non-fiction now. I was going to tell you about classics. This counts as both. Anyway, it does have her sequel in it, which I have not read yet. This particular cover is a series which is done by Eino Magi Metsola. I have 2 more books like this. I bought these 2 last year and I now have this one. I'll show you that cover as well. So they are gorgeous, and I am trying to slowly but surely collect the set. I'm now halfway there, which is wonderful. Okay, we're gonna stick with classics. We're gonna pretend that that one is classics rather than non-fiction. I then picked up Jules Verne's Journey to the Centre of the Earth, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and Round the World in 80 Days. This is the Everyman Libraries edition of this. I have on my shelf somewhere a really old edition of Journey to the Centre of the Earth. It was from the 1920s. It was actually my great-grandfather's. I really want to read it, but I don't want to read it in his copy because I'm worried that I will damage the book, and it has a high sentimental value in my family, as you can imagine. So I've been keeping an eye out for another copy of Journey to the Centre of the Earth with a cover that I feel justifies buying over having such a gorgeous copy of it from the 20s. And of course the Everyman's Library came through. It's big and beefy, but it's absolutely wonderful, and I really like the fact that it has the other 2 in it as well, because I have been wanting to read both of those too. So hopefully I'll get around to this fairly soon. A sort of modern classic as such, or classic within crime, is Strong Poison by Dorothy L. Sayers. Yes, Sayers, not Sawyers. She is a writer who was writing in the golden age of British crime fiction, which is very much around the time of kind of your Agatha Christie as well. I personally didn't actually know this author, but having now looked into her, she is very prolific and quite a big deal. And as soon as I said her name to my dad, he was like, oh yeah, Peter Wimsey, which is her main character. So clearly there like she is big enough and it's just that I missed her on the radar. I was supposed to be getting around to this on Thrillerathon and I didn't quite get there, which is such a shame because I'm really excited by this. I like Agatha Christie. I've read one of her books and I want to read more, but I do want to explore more from that style of crime fiction in that time period rather than just relying on the Agatha Christie huge name. So it looks good fun, and like this cover is just gorgeous, like and all of her books, there's a whole series which they've done with this style of cover where you've got this sort of dark grey and then another really bold pop of colour, and it's very stylised, and I think that they are wonderful. Then I did quite well for getting my Penguin English Library collection up. I think I am unofficially collecting the whole set, but I don't want to just pick them up without actually having an interest in reading them. So some of these you will have seen, in fact all of these I think you will have seen previously on this channel. I picked up at the beginning of the year The 5 Orange Pips and Other Cases by Arthur Conan Doyle. This is of course a Sherlock Holmes collection. Was supposed to get around to it in Thrillerathon, didn't. Thrillerathon was like a total washout for me this year. It's okay, we'll try again next time, but I am keen to get to this one soon. Then I also have Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. This one is huge, but I love the cover, love the spine, and this is on my classics TBR for the year, so I'm hoping to get to it within 2019 in general. I'm not putting pressure on that one because it's huge. I have read The Picture of Dorian Gray absolutely years ago. It's by Oscar Wilde, of course. I actually had two different editions. I've got this one, which is one of the sort of the very old school Penguin Classics books, which I really don't like the covers of. Then I bought the cloth bound edition last year before I realised that I don't actually like the cloth bounds either. I really don't like the feel of them. It kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit. I don't know what it is about them, but I really don't like them. And that's when I then discovered the Penguin English Library paperbacks, which I really love because it's the same pattern as the cloth bounds, but they're paperbacks, which is just much better in my eyes. So I picked this one up to try and replace the other two editions I have, so that it now matches a set. But I read this absolutely years ago and really enjoyed it. Then you've already seen me read it. It's Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. I absolutely love this book. It was one of the first books I read this year. It is wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. I've just started Persuasion by her and I'm really enjoying that one as well. I had a copy of this on my shelf somewhere, but again it was like a really boring cover, and then my mum lent me hers because I was doing that challenge with her. Hers was covered in annotations, so I decided it was the prompt from the gods to just go and get my own copy. On a similar note as well, I actually had Dracula on audiobook and I started listening to it through that, but then I didn't like the narration style, so I picked up a physical copy instead. And again, of course, Penguin English words. You get what I mean. Let's just skip that. So I have read this one too. And finally, we're just going to go through the non-fiction that I've been collecting over the past few months. A book that I have read and most definitely enjoyed is Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs by Steve Brusatte. I read this in 24 and 48-a-thon. This is such a good book. I'm obsessed with dinosaurs because of course I'm going to say that this is a good book. But this book then sparked me buying the next two non-fictions that I bought. T.Rex and the Creator of Doom by Walter Alvarez and The Dinosaur Artist by Paige Williams. Both of these were recommendations from Steve himself and some other people, some other paleontologists on Twitter, because as soon as I finished Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, I did tweet Steve being like, where do I go next? What book should I buy? And these were the two of the many suggestions that I got from that my local Waterstones actually had in stock. So I've bought both of them. The size difference is quite incredible for them, but this one actually looks like really techy and dense, and I think both of them are going to take me a while to get around to because I'm not quite in a non-fiction mood right now. I think probably going to be later on in the year. And we have two final non-fiction books. So I have bought From Here to Eternity by Caitlin Doughty. Actually, tell a lie, I didn't buy this, my mum bought it for me. She's really, really sweet. I'm on like a bit of a book buying, not ban, but limitation, and I'd essentially run out of like credits for the month kind of thing, and she decided to treat me to a few books when we were over in Topping & Co, which is a wonderful independent bookstore in Ely. If you're ever down kind of Cambridgeshire neck of the woods as a book lover, you have to go there. Such a good bookstore. So many of the books here came from them. So she bought me this one, the one I'm about to show you, and the Dorothy Sayers were the books that she bought for me, I'm pretty sure. So this one is From Here to Eternity, Caitlin Doughty. This is the second book from her. She is a mortician and she has a YouTube channel called Ask the Mortician. Her first book, The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes and Other Words. The Smoke Gets in Your Eyes is a look at her life learning to basically be a mortician and her time working at a crematorium. This one instead goes off and looks at different practices and traditions surrounding death and funerals and how we understand them in different societies across the world. It looks really, really interesting, and I absolutely loved her writing style in the first book, so I think this is going to be wonderful. And then the final physical book that I bought in the past few months is Boy Erased by Garrett Connolly. This is a true story, of course it is, it's non-fiction, Emma, about a boy who was sent to one of the gay conversion camps that happen in America. This is being made into a movie with Nicole Kidman that looks absolutely amazing. I've had this on my want to read for over a year now, but it was seeing it being made into a movie and a trailer popped up that reminded me that I definitely wanted to buy it and get to it. It's supposed to be incredible and really intense, and I want to save it for a time when I can really give it the full mental attention that I think it's going to deserve. Okay, so those are all the new physical books that have joined my shelves, but what I did do is I kind of flipped around some formats of some other books that I already owned. So as you saw, I had Dracula on audiobook, but I decided to buy a physical copy. I have a few more books which I flipped around their editions. So I have Kate Atkinson's Life After Life, and I did buy an audiobook version of this. I also have The 5 People You Meet in Heaven, and again I bought an audiobook version. And I had Rosewater, and again I bought an audiobook version of it. I also bought a ebook version of the audiobook The Calculating Stars that I had on my in my Audible account, because I really didn't like the narrative style, so I did read that as well recently. One other audiobook I bought was Transcription by Kate Atkinson. I did buy that at the beginning of the year, which I really enjoyed, and that's why I've decided to go for the audiobook version of Life After Life, because it's the same narrator and I really liked her style. So I've had Life After Life on my shelves for at least a year now, but I've decided the audiobook might be the way that I go with that one. But yeah, do you have any way where you think I should start with these? Any that I should prioritise? Any that you have now added to your TBR list and want to pick up at some point soon? Yeah, all of the comments and everything down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to see any more of my content, and have a wonderful reading week. Bye guys.